Welcome to this week's episode of 0 to a Million, brought to you by Unstack. I'm your host, Zack Rego. Today I'm joined by Michael Epstein, CMO of PostPilot, a company helping you sell more products with powerful, easy-to-use postcard marketing automation built for e-commerce. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good to be with you, Zach.
Yeah, so I think you got a super interesting background. I'd love to go through kind of how you got this journey today to be the CMO of PostPilot and really your experience with e-commerce, prior to jumping into this business.
Sure. I'll try and keep it tight. I started in e-commerce in the old days, 2000, and been in it for over 20 years. Started in an e-commerce retailer, ran that for 13 years, grew it, sold it to private equity in 2013, got into private equity operating work where I was helping various portfolio companies, PE-backed portfolio companies, typically 8 and 9 figure e-commerce brands, grow their business, turnaround strategy, served as CMO of a portfolio of 8 and 9 figure brands, e-commerce brands in the aftermarket automotive space. And I think one channel that I've had a lot of success with throughout my career was direct mail, using it to kind of cut through the clutter, find a different touch point that allowed us to reach our customers. And there just wasn't an easy and efficient way to do it. I was just thinking, it needs to be as easy as creating an automated email flow or an email campaign.
Right.
Same sort of segmentation capabilities where you could really easily target specific audiences and customers based on behavior, have automated personalization, just like you do kind of in an email campaign, versus the old way, which was a bunch of spreadsheets and CSVs and exports, trying to dump a customer list, find a print house, run a giant batch of cards, then do more exports to try and figure out how many of those customers ended up buying and match it up. And it was just a mess. So about a little over 3 years ago, myself, my business partner, and a third co-founder started PostPilot. And we made it as easy as creating an email campaign to send these individually personalized cards based on user behavior and segmentation, the same way you would do with Klaviyo or common kind of email e-commerce platforms. And it's been growing really rapidly ever since.
I love that. You mentioned cut through the clutter, right? Like, I think that's so interesting because historically email mailers were clutter, or direct mailers were clutter. Now email has become just a mess. And we're back, right? So we've kind of seen the market shift there. Where have you seen merchants be really successful, or specific verticals that you're like, yeah, we really kill it here? And how are they best leveraging the tools to be really segmented and targeted in this approach?
Sure. And you're so right. It used to be that the mailbox was where the junk mail went. The email inbox was like the pristine place for important messages. Now you got 140 emails a day, which you're deleting or ignoring the vast majority of them. And the mailbox is where, if you get a piece of mail from a brand that you recognize and have done business with, it's perceived more as a gift. People appreciate that, they engage with it, and they act on it. So the ways that we're seeing the most success, the types of businesses that are having the most success are typically in businesses that lend themselves to customer retention. They're consumable businesses in a lot of cases. So a cosmetics brand, a food or beverage brand, a supplements brand, apparel and other items as well. But particularly when people are consuming a product and on a kind of typical refill and repurchase schedule, this is where direct mail can be so effective at using segmentation to determine if that customer goes off track, they don't buy within the expected time frame. It's 30 days till your refill, and that customer has gone 35 days and not made that second purchase. You can trigger an individually personalized card to go out to that person with an incentive to say, get back on track, come on back, and here's an incentive to make sure you're sticking to your schedule. And it's been super effective with those types of brands. Boom Cosmetics is an example where they know kind of a lipstick lasts a certain amount of time. They created an automated win-back campaign. When those customers don't come back and buy within the expected time frame, a lot of them aren't engaging with email reminders, and this is a way to ensure they get that message, and it's provided a great return for them.
It's really interesting. So are you seeing folks use that email engagement as part of the segmentation? So hasn't opened an email in X period of time. Let's try, a different avenue to get to their inbox, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. We have customers that kind of go both ways. Some of them want to exclude people that are actively engaging in email, and that's fine. And you can do that with our native Klaviyo integration. Others, they like having the additional touch point and hitting them across multiple channels. And we show that customers do buy more when there's a multi-touch approach. They're more likely to come back. They're more likely to spend more when you combine the power of your digital marketing campaigns and your offline direct mail campaigns. It takes more than one touch point in a lot of cases these days to get through to people and make them act.
So when you talk about those touch points, right, we've talked about email, direct mail, obviously SMS making a surge right now as another channel to communicate with customers. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, there's just a multitude of channels to work through. How are you seeing those touch points kind of stack for your clients? And is there any direct mail strategy that is overlapping with another? So, text us to get your code to try to get them to engage with SMS. Take me through a little bit of how you can use direct mail that isn't just here's a coupon buy, but, here's an action we want you to take to nourish our other channels as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great point. We do have a lot of customers that are essentially pivoting a lot of the campaigns that they're creating in email and using similar creative, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, similar segmentation, and having that multi-touch approach. And we've done tests that show that increases the overall effectiveness across all your channels. And we have customers that will use Facebook custom audiences, same sort of thing, have a multi-touch approach. And we have a lot of customers, to your point, that are driving to an SMS opt-in. So they put a QR code right on the card. It drives them to a landing page with an SMS opt-in. So in addition to potentially getting them to buy directly by going back to the site, and maybe there's an incentive, it's also getting them to engage across even more channels and building your list that way.
Okay. I love that. You've been in the e-commerce game for a while, 20 years, which is, about as long as I think e-commerce has been around outside of a few stores prior to that. So that's pretty damn good, right? So you've been in the game for a minute. You obviously latched onto this as hey, this was successful for our merchants and it's a pain in the butt and spreadsheets should go by the wayside. What other strategies have you seen that you're really bullish on from a marketing perspective for e-com brands that, either you're using or you believe that other merchants should be leveraging?
Sure. I mean, I think that, in addition to kind of the typical win-back campaigns and things like that, we've got, they're using it, especially around now, to get the message through to folks around their Black Friday promotions. Because this is when you have a big sale. One, CPCs are getting jacked up because everyone's competing for attention.
Totally.
Email inboxes are getting even that much more overwhelmed because everyone's trying to send a million emails to get your attention. This becomes a really effective way, as we talked about earlier, to cut through that noise and ensure that people are getting your message. And we just introduced a handwritten card option as well. So you've got printed postcards that are individually personalized. But if you want to make just an unforgettable experience, and you're really trying to create deep kind of loyalty and relationship with your customers, this handwritten card option is really neat. You can use the same sort of segmentation, individual personalization, and we have robotic technology that literally holds a pen to paper, writes the card out in completely authentic handwriting. It can match yours, or you can choose from the styles that we have available. And it sends an actual handwritten card with a handwritten envelope and a real stamp on it to that customer. And again, it's just a great way to cut through The clutter get people's attention, and you get a handwritten card in the mail. You're opening it, you're reading it, you're engaging with it. You're not forgetting that.
Totally. I love that for Black Friday or any sort of holiday, or product launches. I think that's another one where, we've seen a lot of merchants spending a lot of time on like the pre-launch engagement and just trying to create this like owned list of people that are ready. That's a great way to inform people and get them to opt in or get them to at least understand that something's coming soon and they should engage and opt in to see when the launch is coming or when the product is live. You mentioned consumables. We've obviously seen tons of cosmetic brands pop up. Where are you kind of seeing the market go for, obviously you've been in the automotive space, I think, for a while, but where are you seeing kind of the market go with other potential industries that could have a lot of success with direct mail? Because, I try to think about where I get direct mail from, and I feel like the Costco is probably the best and most consistent brand that I get direct mail from. I love getting their catalog. I read it almost every time. They send little cards as well. I look at those. I don't know. I'm a Costco fanatic. Also a shareholder. It's a great stock. You should get in on it, everybody. But nice. where do you think there's not enough listeners here to move the market, but hopefully one day. Where do you see like, hey, cosmetics great, consumables great. Obviously nutrition, supplements, we've seen a ton of brands pop up there. Where else do you think there's a good opportunity for direct mail to kind of take over an industry that's maybe struggling through other channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, supplement some of the categories that you mentioned, especially something like supplements, these industries that have high margin but extraordinarily high customer acquisition costs because they're just so competitive. I mean, it's common now that with Facebook and search ad CPCs continuing to increase and competition continuing to increase, a lot of folks just aren't even profitable on their first order. Even if they have a decent margin product, the customer acquisition costs are just so high after you factor in marketing and operations and cost of goods and fulfillment. You've got to be able to retain customers. That's where profits come from when you're not paying to acquire that customer again. So, in these industries, again, like the ones that you've mentioned, retention is just so critical to profitability. They've got to have a good retention strategy in place if they want to be successful. Even if you think, yeah, supplements, I can get 80% margin on that, I'm going to kill it. Then you get to Facebook and you realize, yeah, a lot of other people have the same idea, and it's going to cost you a bunch to acquire that customer.
Right. If you were looking at upsell opportunities, which is something we've seen a lot of merchants thinking about. It's, hey, like I just got the transaction, my credibility's at its highest, obviously, if I'm hopefully delivering the product on time. Let's try to upsell them a product. Is that something you're seeing people do, either delivering a postcard with a product or immediately after to encourage a quick, follow-up purchase?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Recency is typically the best indicator of intent to purchase again. So hitting that customer exactly as how you described. They're warm. They've just raised their hand and said, I'm interested in doing business with you. Hopefully you've delivered a good experience. To be able to hit them with a message that's like, thank you, get that second purchase quick. That not only increases your likelihood of converting that customer again, with every subsequent purchase a customer makes, they become that much more likely to continue being loyal. You're developing this relationship over time, and the more the customers continue to buy from you, the more likely they are to continue buying from you in the future. So getting that second order when they're hot, you're top of mind for them is super critical, and definitely just like kind of a welcome or a post-purchase campaign that you might send via email, you can trigger the same thing by a postcard or even a handwritten card, which really makes a big impression.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing, as a marketer, is always a challenge, and something that I know is a challenge across almost every channel, tracking ROI. I imagine there are challenges, or you mentioned even in the past having challenges with tracking ROI and having to have another spreadsheet that you then try to somehow match up the purchase with the, with the send. how are your customers tracking ROI, and how effective, are they finding some of these campaigns from a return on investment?
Sure, it's a great question. So we've solved that in two ways. With our native Shopify integration, we know who makes the purchase. We also know whether that person received the card and when they were expected to receive that card. So we can automatically track both coupon-based tracking. So if you include a code on that card, it'll automatically look for any purchases that contain that code to the list that you sent and track redemptions of that. And it'll also track at the customer level. So a lot of times, the card is sitting on a desk. Folks forget to put the code in, or they find a different code on your site. They decide to use that instead. We also track based on when we know that customer received the card. If they go on to make a subsequent purchase within the next 30 days, we'll show you that ROI too. And so, that would be a little bit more of an aggressive look at it. And the coupon tracking would be a bit more of a conservative look. And just like kind of any channel, the true attribution's somewhere in the middle there, but you can kind of get the two bookends of where that would look right. Of what your ROI would be. And typically, I'd say most commonly we're seeing 7 to 12, 15x ROI on the campaigns that we're sending.
And are these always from owned lists? These are direct mailers to people that have, again, previously ordered and given you their address, or somewhere along the line registered for something to give you their address, right?
Correct. We focus on keeping those customers coming back and getting them to keep buying from you.
Okay. I love it. It's an incredible service. The interface looks awesome too. So I was excited to chat with you about this because I think it's a strategy merchants should be testing, especially as you've accumulated a large customer list. Michael, one last question I ask every guest. Next 12 months in e-commerce and digital marketing within e-commerce, what are you most excited about as trends continue to evolve in the space? And it doesn't have to be direct mail, it can be, but would love to get your perspective on kind of where you see the market going over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I've always been super bullish and enthusiastic about greater levels of dynamic personalization, I think, across kind of the whole user journey. So this isn't something that's far-fetched and really in the future. The technology really exists today to create a pretty deeply personalized experience, from browsing the product grid and category pages on your site to the marketing campaigns that you're exposed to. I don't know that I've seen a lot of folks doing a great job of really tying that together in a cohesive way and extending that level of personalization kind of at scale and across a lot of different channels. I'm kind of excited to see how companies make it more easy and efficient to really hyper personalize the messaging that you see both on the website itself and in marketing campaigns, and create that kind of cohesive personalized experience, almost like having a personal shopper, but online. Because I think that's what you lose in online retail versus in store. If you can recreate kind of that personal shopper and sales associate experience at scale, that's really interesting to me.
Love it. And that's not a plug for Unstack, but that is exactly what we're working on. Michael did not know that, but he is most excited about what Unstack's working on, because we have, we're really focused on, I think Klaviyo's led, email marketing's led the way in personalization, I think, in a lot of ways, because they've made it easy to drop first name, last name, which is really superficial. But as merchants collect more data on folks, obviously sending personalized letters that are handwritten, which is a really personal experience, influencers speaking more directly to the consumer and maybe previous products they bought, and getting influencers to create content that is different for different parts of the buying journey. And then I think you're so spot on, the website, it's almost lost everywhere that it's a personal experience. It just, I've clicked on an ad where it's like, I want this shirt, and I don't even go to a page where that shirt exists. I have to go find it again.
Right.
First, show me the shirt I want to buy, then speak to me directly after.
Totally. It's got to be more than like other customers like X and Y. It's got to really speak to you. And I love what Unstack is doing.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. And we believe in the same thing. We think that personalization shouldn't end in your communication, it should end in, when the checkout ends. And that's what we're going to try to do our best to build. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can everyone connect you and more importantly, learn more about PostPilot?
Sure. You can reach out to me directly, michael@postpilot.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, and would love to hook any listeners up with an offer to help them get started and test the waters of direct mail.
Yeah. I'm bullish on the strategy. I actually want to chat with you about seeing what we can do for Unstack and maybe get some tests up and running, because there's some cool stuff that I'm trying to build with Shopify using Unstack and Shopify and hopefully PostPilot. So thank you so much, Michael, for joining me today.
Thanks, Zach.